The Transmission of Spiritual Energy by Stanley v. LaDow, read by Dave Marsland of Cardiff Theosophical Society. The monads are contained within the eternal, as suns and planets are contained within the ether. If the eternal be represented as abstract space, each monad will appear as a point in that space. If abstract space be further conceived as a plenum, as the promise and potency of all manifestation, every point in the plenum would be a centre of manifestation, a vehicle through which spirit could express itself. Spirit, being one and indivisible, is present in its entirety in every monad, but the monads differ infinitely among themselves according to their responses to it. They vary from being primordial nuclei of fire mist to being the most glorious of spiritual suns, but one and all they are in perpetual evolution, so that in time the dullest will become a shining host. The monad becomes a radiant vehicle for the light of the Supreme, insofar as it grows in consciousness of the light. The degree of its consciousness is the measure of its brightness. One monad is a more perfect vehicle than another when its response to the spirit is more conscious, which is to say, when this monad has conceived by the spirit a more conscious soul. Potentially, each monad is perfect. Actually, there is no conceivable absolute perfection in the manifested worlds. There is only progress, or to use a less abused word, procession toward perfection. What was veiled and potential yesterday becomes visible and active now, and tomorrow will unfold the unknown as surely as today. How is this procession maintained? How is the faint glow of promise blown into a living flame? There is only one known method of stirring a latent centre to activity. It is by transmission of energy to the latent centre from a centre already active. The planets, themselves dark, are made radiant by the transmitted light of the sun. The wheels of an engine are turned by the transmission of the energy contained in coal. We learn by adopting what has already been learned by someone else. According to the universal law of correspondences, a similar process of transmission of energy takes place on the more spiritual planes. But what seems automatic and uninspired here below is enlightened and transfigured above. When the illumined monad transmits its light to a monad in darkness, it transmits its gift from the spirit, its very life. It is the self-sacrifice of the firstborn of the light, of the sons of God. The illumined terrestrial monad is the master by whose light we see our world, in whose light, if we could but look steadfastly, we should see the reflections of our ideal selves. How does the master maintain himself in heaven? Is it by seeking avidly to absorb and to keep all the light and life which he can reach? Or is it by giving freely of all that he has to the ignorant and needy, by seeking to acquire more, only that he may give more? We believe that he gives more gladly than he receives, and we say that this is the law of spiritual being, that if he did not obey it, he could not be recognized as master. But what does he give? Not external things. He has told us distinctly that he does not give us these. He gives what he cannot so easily replace: his consciousness, his life, his wisdom. He entrusts them to us to use as we will, to dedicate to the giver, or to cast into the mire of self-indulgence. We are free, we can choose. But if we betray him, we destroy not only ourselves, but part of him. Yet, as time passes, and we abuse him more cruelly with every gift, he sacrifices for us not less of himself, but more. By the sacrifice of the Logos, we are told, the great world was born. And by sacrifice, every episode of its history has been prompted. All the climaxes of evolution, of the long fall into generation, culminating in the gift of self-conscious free will in man. And since that turning point, the civilizations which, one and all, have passed away because they perverted the gifts of the avatars. Do we imagine that this perpetual self-giving means nothing to the life of the Logos, that we can waste our lives without disturbing the balance of vital forces in those who devote themselves daily for us? The Logos shines not only by the light of the Father, but by reflection from the light which it has transmitted to all those lesser hosts who were in darkness at the beginning. If their light go out, the bright star of the morning is by so much the darker, for their light is its own.